Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to this very special edition of Psych to Be With You. Now, everything should be functioning. I don't have quite enough screens to ensure that it all is. Everyone who had to watch an ad should have now finished and should be back with us. We are here. Okay, so the video worked. That's great. Yeah, we're back. So quick sort of housekeeping again, just to remind. Full spoilers. So full spoilers for Detroit. Like full spoiler. We're gonna be getting deep into it. So if you don't want a game sort of ruining, like, hosting is making a treat awesome. That's a thing. Mature content is on for the stream because we may be swearing it's in a very mature game, I guess, with mature themes. That's also a thing. So alerts and sounds and all that sort of fun, usual twitchy stuff is on. That's why you can see underneath me the little Ko-fi and stuff. Yeah, content warning, like blanket for the whole game as well. The Auxane knows what she's doing. All that just on the go, just like, be mindful of that as we go. Yeah, I haven't done a podcast episode live for a long time. So we're gonna have fun with this. Big thanks again to Women in Games for giving us a host for the first 2 hours. So we're gonna try and get through that. I don't know how long we're gonna chat for, but just chat till we drop, and then that'll be the stream. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us for this. Yeah, let's just sort of get into it. I'm very, very excited to say that I am psyched to be with you again, Auxane.
Again.
Part
and
2.
Again. Yeah, I know. That's exciting. I mean, we kind of promised it during the first episode, didn't we?
We threatened it,
that.
and then
we threatened it.
I came through on that threat because I am a wild man.
Just a little side note or a little explanation for the people joining us through the Women in Games. Psych to Be With You is a podcast that Chris hosts brilliantly on psychologists, so talking with psychologists on their topic, their research topic, and it is fascinating. So if you're ever interested in video game psychology or any other psychology really at this point, feel free to
not even just psychology. We chat to anyone and everyone. Just happens to be psychologists because they're the people I know. I'll drop a podcast link in the chat. If you're watching this back, that'll be attached to wherever you found this, or if you're listening to the podcast, all the other links will be attached below to wherever you found this episode. I think that's all the usual kind of stuff. I mean, I haven't actually introduced myself yet. Hi,
exactly. Go for it. I was going to say, let's say who we are.
AKA Chimp195, your host here. You are my guest.
I'm Auxane Buck, and I am just here to chit chat about social robots at this point.
Yeah,
but I also research those as a lifestyle.
So this is your second appearance on the show, I guess. I'm just going to move my microphone. Actually, let me get this.
It is. The fame is real. What's up?
Let me tidy this.
Technical moment.
Now I look like an actual podcast host. You can see a microphone now. That's how you know it's a podcast and not a stream. Sorry, that probably sounded awful. I didn't mute the mic. My bad.
No worries at all.
But yeah, so this is like we threatened this. We had an episode. Auxane was nice enough to come on, be interviewed by myself about what you do. Great conversation. It was very, very exciting. And then we sort of were talking about games, and you were like, "You need to play Detroit. Like, you need to play. It's a thing." You
I had a really strong opinion about it. That's true.
This was like just a thing you needed to do, and I was like, "Okay, that's fair." And then obviously to celebrate sort of the 1 year anniversary of the stream, I'm a big fan of narrative games. We started with Life is Strange. I wanted to go back to that style of game, and Detroit was perfect. I've heard from many people to play it, and I hadn't. Now I have. Now we've done it. You were there. You saw the conclusion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have thoughts, questions, feelings about the game.
I think we need to debrief it.
Yeah, this is what this is, a kind of deconstruction with the expert, I guess, is how I'm framing it. As we sort of have titled it on Twitter and such as two cyberpsychology nerds, one video game.
Exactly. And this is the first, maybe the only one you'll see. So enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe to give you also a bit of background on why we're first cyberpsychology nerds, but also how it relates to the game. I know Chris doesn't like me saying that, but he's an expert in video game psychology. Cringe moment. No, we're fine.
You know, Dunning-Kruger kind of expert at this point. I'm not quite there.
Okay, he's studying hardly video game psychology as a PhD, and I study social robots ethics as a PhD, and we're both having a background in psychology and cyber psychology, so interaction between human and machines. So basically what we'll be doing is mostly have a conversation. We both have the chat, so please feel free to use it. I see Charlie in the chat. Thank you very much for being here, Charlie, and thank you again for hosting this. We're really excited. So maybe instead of teasing, we should start talking about the actual game.
So where do we even start? I mean, my days.
Okay.
So obviously we've chatted off stream about it. You were here when I finished the game. I think my initial response to like the end of the game was I was just quite tired, to be honest. I didn't realize, but it was like 1 a.m. like my time, so even later for yourself. I was like, oh my goodness. So I was maybe a bit more lukewarm, but I haven't really like stopped thinking about the game, which in essence makes it a good game, you know.
Exactly, which makes it an amazing game.
I'll start with the negatives. Then we can end on the positives, and then we can sort of go into it. But I think I told myself, like, albeit maybe mentally, I didn't really declare it, but I was like, in the interest of playing the game properly, I'm not going to do any resets. I'm not going to reset stuff.
I am fully pro that option.
I do think, though, there are a couple of points where, like, I just sort of blurted and done, like, the wrong thing, and it wasn't actually what I intended to. And then I was like, okay. So I screwed up at Eden Club, you know, best level. And I was just like, okay, I've screwed up. That's an F. But I kind of took it on the chin. But there was, I think, one of the big moments where I was like legitimately a little bit annoyed was when we broke into the news station, and I'd intended to distract the guards like non-violently and just like walk too far. I just triggered the event as if you'd failed, and I was like, oh. So that's a thing. And then we like sort of turn violent, and then I was like, so peace and non-violence kind of didn't really work. So I was kind of like, okay, that annoyed me. And then like, so that I think would have been a genuine moment where I'd gone, that's not what I actually wanted to do. I'd have reset and like actually done it. Because I think the consequence of that was moments like the protesting where I was like, okay, then we'll kind of, you know, lack of conviction. And then, you know, the battle sequence at the end felt really like disjointing because like
I could see that.
It was just like, oh wow, I wasn't prepared or trained for this. Like it's a narrative game, and then they chuck an action sequence in it. And that didn't go right, and I think that would have been like, well, no, I wanted to. I didn't feel like I succeeded because I failed because I was bad. I just felt like I'd pressed the wrong button. Again, though, I would argue I got a pretty good ending in that all three of the main characters survived.
Yes, good job.
And the androids took control of Detroit. I would call that a win. Now,
by a way and a mean that I don't know if you can leave with this.
I mean, I slept that night very easily.
Horrible decision in my opinion.
I'm not saying it's the right decision, but like again, so for those that didn't catch the playthrough, like things went sour. So then I just like I took the literal nuclear option and just poof and just did it, and then that freed the streets of Detroit.
He bombed everyone.
Yep. Because and again, like at that point I was like, screw yous anyway. I don't care.
But yeah, I think so. as Chris said, I was there for the last few hours of the stream, of the playthrough, and he just got fed up. Basically, at some point, it was not working the way he wanted it to work.
Another moment as well, where like the pipe bomb moment.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, because of my genuine philosophy. So my philosophy was, particularly with like Marcus's kind of political sort of storyline, was I want peace, but I want you to know you can't mess with us. Like, we have power. So I was like, a little bit of violence.
You wanted an in between. Yeah, you wanted I'm gonna be chill until I'm not kind of situation.
Yeah, like don't push me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think unfortunately, you throw one Molotov cocktail, everyone starts, and then it's just like, okay, you've gone. And we sort of spoke about, like, I'd love to see like a breakdown of the point scoring to like min max it. And the game's on PC, so someone's probably worked that out.
Yeah.
Like for like exactly how to get like maximum points, because, and again, maybe you'll disagree. I do want to hear about like your ending and your experience as well. But I think for me, I looked up a few bits of information afterwards, and like it's very much framed in the context of, well, the best ending is you choose peace, and the public opinion is high, and everything's all hunky dory, and cheese, because Hollywood, right?
I would disagree with that. To be fair, I think that this is what the players, the gamers at some point turn into the best ending is, or the positive ending is, because I've never felt like this throughout the game, and I have never even considered it, if we can say. For me, there is no best ending or worst ending. And I wrote that to you in probably better word. There's just the ending that is up to you, basically, your ending.
Well, I mean, it's come into chat, but like best is so subjective. Like I still say all three of my characters survived.
Yeah,
I call that,
and that's a really good job. Really good job on that. But also, it depends on how you approach the game, right? It's always this question of how will you end up playing the game? Do you play it as a gamer that wants to succeed in the game, or do you play it as an experience? Do you play it as an interactive movie? Do you play, there is a lot of question, in my opinion, relating to your, how do you call that? I'm sorry, for those of you who don't know me, I am not an English native. Therefore, sometimes I will speak a word English and not find my words straight away.
I mean, we love it. We love the language and accent variants we've had on the podcast before. It's a delight for me, let alone listeners. So
there you go. Yes. How do you call it when your aim is to have the most points? When someone is driven by performance. There you go. Performance. Yeah. So to me, this game was not about performance. Also, because as soon as I make a game something performance-ish, then I will lose. But that's my inner gamer that does not like the idea of being the best. I'm more about, okay, I'm going to enjoy the game, and that's why narrative games are definitely my favorite ones. So yeah, for me, the game was not at all about having the best ending or anything. I wanted the best decisions so that it reflects how, hopefully, I would have acted in real life.
And I think that is one of the stumbling blocks that I kind of fell over a few times, in that I said this on stream, but like I really couldn't decide if I was trying to play it as what I thought the characters would do or what I would do. And that's why you kind of, I think I ended up playing it as if I would. And I think that is legitimately why I ended up like in this kind of hodgepodgey kind of middle ground, because I think that would reflect what I would do. Like, it's not like I'd sit there and go, oh, I want like extreme violence. I don't think I'd ever go down that route. It would be like a peace, but don't screw with me. That's when things get nasty. That just maybe didn't translate in the exact decisions that I made, and that's where I think why if I hadn't have said no resets, I'd have reset at those points. I got, okay, that didn't actually land the way I'd intended it to. Because as with narrative games, it's like you push a button thinking it means one thing and it does something else.
But yes, always, yes. You can try and see and imagine what's going to happen next and what's going to be the consequence on the long run of your action. But to be fair, I'm not sure you can, as a human being, predict that really well. A full team worked on this, especially for it to be a bit of a surprise. So I'm going to guess, usually when I played the game, I was just, at some point I tried to be a bit more strategic and say, okay, I don't want my characters to die. And then the moment I turned into this, in my approach, Luther died. Luther died so quickly that it was stupid. He went with Alice and Kara to this, where was the, the place with all the attraction and stuff.
Oh yeah, the theme park.
Yeah, the theme park. And that's where he died. Right after that. So that was so early in the story. And then I called my best friend who played the game before me. And I told her Luther died. And she was like, no. And she almost cried, I swear. I'm going to refer a lot to her reactions throughout this.
Well, I'm quite pleased that you mentioned that, because one of the things I wanted to ask about you was, you when you said you played the game, you said one of your friends was like, call me when you get to this moment.
That's it.
Was that it?
No, that was, so the park was definitely it. And another moment was when you know that Alice, when you realize that Alice, enormous spoiler alert here, is a robot. And because she knows me and she knows that through Kara, I would definitely get super attached to Alice. And I'd be like, we're going to save the baby girl. We're going to do everything we can for the child. And then the child is an android. And yeah, so she went to see my reaction. And I think she was not disappointed, because my reaction was a lot of things at once. Like, what? No way. How did they brain us like this? Oh my gosh, crazy, so cool. Wow. Does it grow up? And that was basically the entire thought process.
Nice.
But yeah, no, that was the Alice moment that fully, took my brain, turned it around. And
now we maybe had psychics in the chat at the time, but someone actually predicted this. And they did not know, they did not look it up.
That was a joke.
They were just like, imagine if something like this was the truth, though. And it does start dropping significant hints. I remember when I was playing it, I was like, you've never actually seen her eat. She's never complained, despite how long had passed. I was saying it would have been cool if she was. Yeah, Bob was the psychic in chat.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember thinking some things didn't add up. So I was maybe thinking maybe she was ill or something, especially when Luther was like, no, okay, but we need to chat about this.
I never guessed.
So I was half surprised, I guess, but not super surprised, if that makes it wasn't it didn't blow me over, if that makes sense.
Oh, it did blow me over. I was, for a second, I was really lost. It's like the game lied to me. It lied to me for so long, so many hours. Also, because you have all that story about, I'm sorry,
you didn't ruin it. I had definitely thought something was amiss.
I'm pretty sure he didn't compute it. He understood it was a joke when you said it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when I saw it in the chat, I was alarmed. I was like, who is spoiling? Why are you doing this? But after that, that's why I asked something like, how would you know that? And then, we had clarification. I lost my train of thought. So...
And Bob, being the completely rational person he was just it'd just be a really cool twist.
Yes, exactly.
I had thought of other really like random but cool twists, because there was a point where I was like, imagine if Connor was actually in like a different timeline, like how and they threw in some time, like I know they literally had times and dates, but I was like, imagine if they were actually like in a different timeline and this was all, they were all in the past sort of thing, like, but like it was actually like, you know, that was one of the cool threads.
Yeah.
So I honestly, like, I enjoyed the experience. The fact that I've been thinking about it and been talking about it, like, and I've declared I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna like go back and I'm gonna work backwards and like try and like do the combat and not fail at that, and then go back and change a few of those like decisions that I felt like I effed up on. I think one of the big things for me in terms of full replayability, I think would be. I said this before. I wasn't really a huge fan of getting the flowchart at the end of each chapter.
Yes.
I think that was like, it was almost like too much information overload. However, you can tell it's well designed, and this is something that I'm aware that narrative games kind of do, and it's like choices are inconsequential, and like at the end you end up with a binary kind of choice anyway, vis-a-vis the old, Telltale. If someone can die, they will. You have to choose between two people. Eventually, both of them will go. That kind of stuff. There were a few times, and actually, someone commented on the YouTube. I was like, every single time, I was like, "Well, this is impossible. I've screwed this. I can't do this. I've not done enough here." There was a way. There was actually still a way.
There is always a way.
And that was actually really quite impressive. Like, you had to work for it, and it was harder. Like, there are certain sections where you could have made this easier. That's fair. One of the big things I wonder about my playthrough is how far would I have to go back to have a positive public opinion? Because one of the big tipping points in the game has to be, crap, what was the sanctuary called? Jericho. If you get to Jericho, and if that doesn't get attacked, I think that would be one of the biggest pivotal moments. Because if that doesn't happen, then I think that really impacts on what Connor, Kara, and then Marcus does next. And I think...
Okay, I'm gonna request a chat joker here. Can anyone in the chat go and check if there is endings where Jericho doesn't get attacked, please? I am not 100% sure there is.
I was wondering because like it was my interpretation of reading sort of other stuff, but I was like, if stuff doesn't go bad in the news tower, does that mean the FBI don't get involved? And then, or like, do you have to do Connor's route well enough so they don't get involved? And I was like, I wonder if there's a way where that happens, because I've read that there is an ending where Kara and potentially Luther actually make it to Canada.
Yes, there is an ending where they make it. It was not mine, obviously, but there is an ending where they make it.
But like, for that to happen, public opinion has to be positive enough for that to work. Otherwise, they get stopped at the border.
Do you think so? No, I think that they just snuggle in. They make it through, even though they have they avoid like the, how do you call it, control at the border, I think. I don't think it is. I don't think it is about public opinion, even though that might help. But yeah, my public opinion, I think, was quite in between throughout the entire game. They didn't hate me. They didn't like me. They were like, whatever.
Yeah, and that's definitely like where I'm hedge betting based on what I've read. Because I mean, like, even like I read like little things. Yes, you can. The location of Jericho only remains secret when Connor is deactivated permanently.
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks, Charlie.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but then okay, so that means you have to basically kill Connor, which is doable. Really doable.
And like not have him discover it. I kind of thought maybe it would work if like, but sad game world. I kind of thought maybe it would work if he worked out on his own, like in my run, like you had to go into the evidence room and examine it, and like he could work it out and just like leg one, because it's not immediately clear that they would follow it. But I mean, this is
the
why
thing
the game
is that I got
right?
I got Jericho's place with Connor before, I think, going to the exam room, or after, because the clue thing, I didn't succeed at all. That was an enormous fail through and through. I didn't figure it out at all. I was fully lost, but I still made it to Jericho. So if I remember well, I found Jericho either afterwards, either before, and I just didn't know I had it, or something like that.
Okay.
So there is other ways to find Jericho when you're Connor. I think it was during the interrogation as well. I've seen your section when you interrogate the android the first one that you arrest. I think the only one that you arrest. And yeah, my interrogation was super successful as well. And I'm guessing that maybe there was something. But anyway, in general, there is a way. But that's what I like about this game. There is a way for everything. You can also just have your characters die and have a full game without one of the character or two of the characters. I hate this idea. This would be a terrible game.
Well, we were talking on stream about like how that impacts the speed run. Because like you could just like kill off two of the characters real quick and just like speed run one
would
line.
Want to speed run that type of game like this?
For records, yeah.
This is not. No, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm officially opposed to this. I'm opposing myself to speed running this game.
I don't think it'd be pretty, but
no, what's the point even? Can you imagine? So let's imagine you kind of have to speedrun Marcus then. You kind of have to have Marcus because otherwise there is no Jericho, there is no movement, there is no anything. So you don't have Connor, which means no one is actually knowing how to find Jericho.
Well, apparently he does just repeatedly get respawned. Like they just keep churning new versions of him out. So like I think you end up doing most of Connor and Marcus anyway.
I know you can play without Kara because I've seen that.
But you can lose her like first chapter. Like
yeah. You can just not break the code. Just don't break the code. And it's that easy. You'll be killed or you'll be deactivated. But yeah. So is that Sorry, go for it.
No, I was gonna say I'm kind of conscious of the fact that like we're being hosted and the people want the goods, the big goods. So I was kind of like,
yeah, that's
shall we get on instead of this minutiae? We get into these individual sort of things. How about we get into some of the big stuff?
Yeah. So I was gonna ask if you had anything else that was a problem for you in the game design itself, because that basically is game design we're talking about more than the story, more than everything that's behind it.
So in the design, honestly, no. I think it's the most successful kind of implementation of that. I like the fact that, and it's something you don't often see, but like at the end where you were chatting to Hank, you only get certain dialogue options if you in game like that run picked it up. You can't just know it and then like cheat. I thought that was really, really innovative. Because that's the kind of thing that gets overlooked, and like you just know what buttons to press. So like that, and the fact that can change, I thought was really, really cool.
All right, yeah.
I didn't like. It felt like pure filler, but Marcus having to find Jericho. That was just boring. Just walking around.
I hated that moment. I hated that moment so much. But I understand that you have to suffer to get to Jericho. That's how I interpreted it.
The game was going at such a fast pace.
I know.
It just felt like filler. I got lost because a blind man trying to find tags on walls. And the fact that some of them you couldn't actually find until you had stopped trying to scan. And then it was like, have you tried jumping on the wall? And I was like, that's excellent game design. Like... But those were the only things that kind of made me go, meh, didn't enjoy that very much.
Fair enough. We can get back to it a bit later after.
The actual kind of meta thing of like the host lady at the beginning, who then like at the end like leaves. Like
Chloe.
You were like, this is amazing. And I was kind of like, yeah, see you later, girl. I'm not bothered.
Oh my gosh, Chloe just made my day because I was so not expecting it. I think the main thing is that I'm super naive when it comes to games. I'm gonna be buying everything. I don't try to understand what's the goal behind all of that. I'm not trying to figure out the future of the game, what's gonna happen next. I'm just trying to be the most in the moment of the game as possible, so I can be surprised when I'm supposed to be surprised. And it works well with some games, but I mean, Telltale games at some point just don't surprise you anymore, even though they're amazing. But yeah, Detroit, Chloe, that blew my brain.
Fair.
I was just, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please go have your own life, do your own thing. I went to have a conversation with her at this point. Didn't happen, unfortunately. I would love to have a conversation with a fake Chloe. That would be amazing. But so if we're done with game design stuff, I can say yes,
we're already convinced we have to go back. Yeah.
Please, everyone, go play this game. It's for so many reasons one of the best games ever.
It's genuinely very good. I'd recommend anyone play it. Again, like we're fully throwing spoilers out, so I think like, you know.
Yes, and we're gonna get into more of the content and the design as of in 3 minutes or something. So, and big debates. So yeah, if you don't want to know what's gonna happen, please don't listen to it now.
I know. Yeah. So let's. So I'm gonna preface this, right.
Go for it.
Obviously, one of the huge themes in the game is thinking about like the role of like androids, and it's about like saying, well, okay, you know, at what point does sentience become human? Literally, that's in the title of the game, right? Now, I'm saying this as someone who essentially presents as a white person. Let's say personally, I'm a person with albinism, and I'd sort of date that as my ethnicity personally. But I'm not a person of color. I'm not black. I have no idea what those types of experiences are, being a person of color or being black or any of those things, right? Anyone other than myself, because that's how I am. I'm not going to attempt to speak for those people or people from those groups. However, you know, it made deliberate sort of social parallels. The whole point was like, well, if we treat these things like this, we were doing a terrible job treating other people in society that definitely are human. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is, the androids kind of being kind of whitewashed, kind of white-faced. Like oh, they all take their skin off and they're all kind of white. That was a bit of an interesting thing. And you actually mentioned at the time saying that that's a big debate kind of in robotics as a whole.
It is. It is. But keep going.
Yeah, it draws
mental notes for everything you say.
It draws like direct parallels to slavery, like slavery is mentioned, and I think that's an important point. I do think though that for a game that was trying to make a lot of social points, it kind of supported quite a lot of social tropes as well. Like the mystical black lady, you know, in Jericho, who's the healer, is a trope. You have.
We'll discuss that.
You have the woman who wants to be a mother, going off with the child, and you know, kind of unbeknownst to her, but like stealing the android child, kidnapping it. That's a trope. They then meet a big, strong black man. You know, that's a trope.
We had this conversation already.
But like, so you know, that felt like a trope. Like, you know. And I was just like, considering you're trying to make these comments, like you can't, like, again, you could argue that like they put that in to get you thinking, well, these are very common sort of place tropes, you know, but like that type of stuff. The fact that like Marcus, like, you know, similar to the design, but like removed his face for the speech also seemed a bit weird. Connor, like, you know, was like just a buddy cop storyline. Yeah, he's like I'm the good, well-spoken, friendly white cop that everyone can be friends with because I'm a good guy and good guys don't do bad things. Like stuff, and like, you know, and again, maybe it was all intentional, but like a couple of things like that, like kind of like rub me the wrong way when you're trying. And then like, you know, the ending scene with like the destruction camps. Like stuff like that made me physically feel uncomfortable. That I'd say was good because that's meant because that shit happened.
That's the point. Like, that's the point. You should feel uncomfortable. Everyone should feel uncomfortable in front of this. Even more than that, even if it's just robots. There's the behavior.
Those big ones for me were a bit like you kind of trying to touch on social commentaries about like race and differences and the way we kind of view people in society, but that one, though, like there's like, but you're still including a few of the really sort of serious tropes.
Okay, is it my turn?
I didn't realize we were playing chess. Like, you know,
I literally wrote down the main points because I didn't want to forget. The whitewashing, first of all, yes, big yes. So in robotics, or in every time you see a robot that is humanoid being represented, most of the time, if they're humanoid, they're going to be white. And I think If I'm right, the Elon Musk humanoid robot that has been presented is white. For example, Pepper, the robot that you can find in a lot of places in East Asia and more in the Western world, is white. So you have a lot of humanoid robots, even in science fiction, when represented, that are white. And this is a problem when you start talking about diversity, of course, because why should they be white? I know it's a stupid question, but honestly, why? And don't tell me it's because the material, the hardware, whatever is white, because I'm pretty sure you have to make it white for some of it, if not for all of it. So this is a
mentioned
question.
like sci-fi and like Westworld, like like the opening title sequence of that is them being made, and like it's
yeah,
like they're dipping them in like a white substance to give them that finish. Like it's a choice. Yeah, no worries, OMG, take it easy. Appreciate the like. But yeah, like like that type of thing. Like
it's
just
a
like
choice.
So why though?
and I think exactly that's a really good question, and I'm going to answer something that is my personal opinion based on a bit of knowledge and a lot of opinionated feelings. White people or Eastern Asian people and white people from rich countries make the robots. Therefore, they make them at their image. And of course, you're going to tell me there is diversity in different industries, and it's right, but the diversity is so low that I'm not sure we even need to mention it. When you talk about technology in the world, you have mainly the global north, which would include North America, Europe, Western, more than Central Europe, and Eastern Asia, that create those. And there you go, the robots are white.
Someone in chat, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I apologize. But I'll just say
Psychologia dos Robos. I'm gonna guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry.
I'm blind and can't speak, so I frequently mispronounce things. But like says that in some cases, like it's kind of to do with costs, and that's just the way goods are sort of sent. But that in of itself doesn't. It means game psychology. No, it's alright. I can't read. But like like it says maybe it's to do with costing, and that doesn't excuse everything, but that's kind of like maybe like the default response you would get, I guess.
Yeah, but in general, so it is a debate that exists. So it means game psychology. Okay, amazing. No worries at all. Don't be sorry. So yes, in general, this cannot be the only reason, and we know that a lot of things comes from the diversity within in different industries. And I'm gonna guess that there is still a big part of the who builds the robots. And again, as I said, it's my personal opinion based on a bit of knowledge and a lot of feelings, opinionated feelings. Second point, slavery. So second point of discussion. Yes, I loved the fact that the game related to slavery and did not put the one-colored avatar in a situation of slavery. I did really appreciate thinking of putting the other ones in this situation, but not the one black avatar they had or main character they had. Marcus is well treated, and he is happy. He's already deviant and chooses to stay. I think this is really important to notify.
Mm-hmm.
Now, slavery, of course, as soon as we start talking about social robots, we're going to need to start talking about the use of them in everyday life, because of course we can think of robots in industry and manufacturing, but those are not built to show any type of emotion. And I'm not saying they have emotion, I'm saying they're showing it. So just a really quick definition of social robot right now, so that everyone's on the same page. It is everything that is embodied or not. Therefore, Siri, Alexa could be social robots that aim at communicating and building relationships with humans. I'm going to write in the chat just Fox and Gambino. For those of you who want to go read a really great article about it that explains really well, way better than I do, you can type that in Google Scholar, and you'll find an amazing article.
And if it's behind the paywall, hit me up. We can sort that out.
Yes, we can figure it out.
Oh, it shouldn't be gate kept. Sorry, carry on.
Yes, I agree with
different
that as
soapbox.
well.
Save that for a different chat.
But so as soon as we start talking about those robots that will be implemented in our homes, implemented in our schools, in our service, like hotels, supermarkets, or else, yes, we can say that we will need to consider slavery, even though those are not humans. But now the question of ethics is asked. What is ethics? Where do we put the limit? Why do we put it?
Now, if only we had an expert in social robotic and ethics.
If only you knew someone that was able to discuss it. I want to say a bit of a disclaimer right now. All ethics is a lot of opinions at this point. Ethics of AI.
Ethics. Let's chuck out the window. It is basically philosophy, and philosophy is basically just a bunch of mostly white dudes saying what they think we should do. I've been down a philosophy rabbit hole, and it is just a bunch of different people saying this is what we should do because this is right, and I think so. Therefore, that's what we should do.
Well, at the risk of losing my job, I'm gonna say yes, but. Not only the things that you have different approach to ethics, right? You have the philosophical approach to ethics, which is what you're explaining really well. Bunch of white males, usually over 50 years old or 60 years old, thinking really hard about stuff. And then you have applied ethics, which is really more of a consequentialist approach. At least that's the one I'm applying and I've seen applied most. So we look at the consequence of implementing something, and if it's mostly bad, we don't do it. So that's more of a data-based approach, which is the one I am advocating for. Please, everyone, science, do data.
That sounds almost too sensible. What are you doing coming up in here talking about logic? Data. Hello.
Oh my gosh! Science, no, empirical science.
This the Wild West? What on earth?
Exactly. So, when you talk about ethics, you have consequentialism, which is basically what's up. If we do that, what happens, and how is it going to turn bad, and why, and how far is it going to turn bad? And you have other approaches, which, if I'm right, is the ontological approach. Yeah, this is way more about, is the action I'm going to take positive or negative, whatever the consequence. That's the dichotomy that you can find. So the action versus the consequence of the action. Basically, the greater good is consequentialism. When you say, oh yes, but it's for the greater good, I mean, Thanos is the embodiment of consequentialism. But
is anyone else just quoting Hot Fuzz? The greater good?
I like that our references are this. Can we please put that in scientific papers? And so when you talk about social robots, just to get back on our subject, where are you going to look? In my personal opinion, we need to look at consequences, and we need to look for the best consequence, because again, we're not here to be the police. We're also here to say, hey, if you do it like this, it would be amazing. And it's not just about saying, oh, this would be bad. It's also about saying this wouldn't be bad, but we could make it better. And this is optimistic ethics, which I try to apply every day.
Optimism.
And I know some people. Optimism.
Wrong
I
channel.
know I'm hurting you right now. Optimistic ethics. I love it. It's not at all an official term. but I wanted to be one. So
Fair.
Optimistic ethics.
Manifest.
There you go. Share my opinions, strong opinions. But yeah, so going back to the topic of the question the game asks when it puts robots in a position of slaves, you can see that you have different approaches. You have Kara's storyline that starts in the worst case scenario. We understand quite quickly that she, or yeah, I'm going to name them by she, him, and that kind of things. Even though they could be it, but yeah,
I mean, is that not like quintessentially one of the cornerstones of the game, just right there? Like, even in our reference discussing the characters of the game, does that not? Because there will be people that play it and just go, androids, I don't care, and just bulldoze.
Play the game and come back.
Yeah.
And tell me that.
Completed it,
20 hours. Exactly. But yeah, so Kara starts in the worst case scenario, really. She starts in this home where the owner has broken her before, and that's why he has to go pick her up. And I noted that when I watched Chris gameplay, which I didn't note when I played it, was that the owner said, it was the car that broke it. Basically, I ran over it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you understand really quickly that that's not at all what happened. He 100% broke it by kicking it. And so now Kara is back in the household and she's being poorly treated straight away, minute one. And it doesn't get better, obviously, especially when you start learning, yes, that the owner takes drugs, that everything is wrong in his life, and you see how he treats the kid and all that.
One of the things that really, one of the actual things that blew my mind about, and it kind of just got left on under the table on the game, but when you find out that Alice is an android,
yes,
and firstly, they must be programmed different because she seemed to be acting with deviancy. Was she already a deviant? Had the issues at home made her a deviant? Were they just programmed to just follow an adult, therefore just did whatever she said Kara did?
I think that they're programmed to be literally Charlie saying she's what? Charlie, I thought you played the game. But yeah, no, I think that the kids androids are being programmed to be just to be kids, really. Therefore, they are aware but have to act unaware of their condition, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably having a bit of deviancy, if we can call it that, in their behavior. Well, I think it's part of the coding.
Have to because for a child to be a child, they have to be if you met a child, they're socially deviant by default.
Multiple times. They're socially deviant.
Tell me I'm wrong.
They're special. No, but maybe they're just really, really nice and steady kids, those androids. But the first android to be a deviant. Oh, that's an interesting approach, Gab.
The thing that really I thought got left under the table though was the fact that why did no one? I'm not saying they should, but the guy bought the child android to be mean to it.
So I have a hypothesis about this. He says,
and the things that he was doing that, just the game just never picks that back up. It's just oh no, that's fine. And obviously that changes your perspective when you realize that she is an android. But that makes it so that makes it more horrific. I'm not saying that type of scenario isn't worse, but the fact he's gone to the store and bought.
I don't think he bought it for that. I don't think he bought it for that, because he mentions that he had a wife and that this wife left him for the accountant. And therefore, my belief is that he was in a happy marriage. They couldn't have a kid. They bought a kid, didn't help. And off we go. And Alice being an android, she doesn't grow up.
Sorry, just random opinion. People usually do that with dogs to see if that helps, and then Like,
Yeah,
no, let's buy an android child. I mean, that I think again, no, like, but my problem is that that's not really explored. Like, you have to
it is not. It is
hypothesize,
not.
like,
But I like this as well because it's not the story, because you do not know that Addison an android. And if you were to explore this story, then you would know from moment one, except most of Kara's storyline is to avoid to know that.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, like, I don't know, a flashback might have worked. Like, when she finds out she has, like, this recollection, because you would imagine that maybe, like, Kara was there first. Like, you could have, like, a really cool flashback sequence or, like, flashback level where they bring her home or something. Like, and
Maybe
that
that's a DLC.
that would have
Maybe
made,
we
like,
just need a DLC.
yeah, like, that for me, I think would have maybe added a bit more to it. Because, like, the
Let's
idea
ask
of,
them.
like, yeah, again, like, the scenario being discussed is, like, stomach chaining and just wrong, right? But, like,
Horrible.
But, like, the
Horrible.
idea of the guy, like, going in the store one day and then just walking off with, like, 2 androids, 1 child, you know, and Kara as well, and then just be like, yeah, let's be a horrible human.
I think Kara was bought, and again, fully believes Kara was bought to replace the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because then later on, you hear stories about other household androids. Then when they're asked, what were you doing there in your job? Oh, is it, what's her name? Marcus' girlfriend.
Oh,
North.
yes.
North. So it's North saying that she was doing, oh no, because North was in a brothel. But anyway, there is a household android that says that basically it was doing everything. And so everything meaning everything.
Oh, everything. Okay.
Everything, including
everything, including
everything.
personal servicing, shall we say?
Exactly. Really replacing the wife.
Now, apart from the Eden Club scene,
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just multiple tangents here, but, like,
Go for it.
That was one of the things that I felt I expected to see that more. Like, and, like, honestly,
I like that we didn't, though.
I like that we didn't, but honestly, like, hand on heart, heavens to Betsy. When, you know, like, I think, like, when Kara and Alice, like, did get off the bus, I was like, part of my stomach went queasy. I was like, is there gonna be, like, a proposition sort of scene at this point while they're on the run? And that made me feel
done it.
Like, quite, and I was like, that's not the kind of thing I want to Google and look up to see if it's there. But I was like, oh, I felt like, is this something I'm gonna, like, have to, like, choose, or, like, will there be some type of, you know, violence in that way that would have came up in her storyline? And it kind of did with the creepy guy, like, a little bit, but
the creepy guy,
the guy who tries to reset her in the house, and that where you pick up Luther from, I forget his name.
Oh yeah.
But, like, I genuinely anticipated, like, that would have been made more of.
Yeah, but I appreciate that they didn't, because, to be fair,
it would have been super cheap.
I don't think it's the main question. Yeah, exactly. I don't think the game is. I mean, it is a really important topic to talk about sex robots and the position of robot in sexuality. But content warning. And
the position of robots.
But yeah, I think it's nice that in this game they mentioned it, they talked about cyber brothel, basically, because this is something that has been discussed, if not implemented already in some countries.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate that this was not like, oh, every female android has been raped, but not every male android. You know, because we don't really hear about men android in this position, which is fair in a way, because mainly when we talk about prostitution, we think about females prostitutes. That's a stereotype, and I'm not sure what the numbers actually say, but the stereotype is that it would be mainly a female activity. So I would imagine that the cyber brothel would be mainly females.
It did actually have a decent representation, like, of male, like, robots, you know, like in the Eden Club, like, level, to be fair, which was kind of surprising. I didn't really comment on it, but it was a nice one for the modding there, Bob. Appreciate it.
Yeah. But yeah, So yeah, I remember the hidden scene there. There was a male, wasn't there? Or even two.
There was a fair few. They were dotted about, like.
Yeah. Sorry, I haven't played it in a long
No,
time.
I think like you're right, and that it would have been a cheap kind of.
It would have been
shot,
cheap, yeah.
but like the
Let's
game
just
does also do
leave
like
it
a
at that.
fairly decent way of loosely touching on areas of sexuality, like and
Yeah.
with the robots, like so it is there.
Yeah. And we had also the conversation of sexuality between robots, which is interesting, which seems to be not sexual act like the same as between humans, but intimacy act when they share data, therefore
like
share their
little,
memories.
the little robot nookie sort of hand holding thing, like
Yeah, I mean, North and Marcus gives quite a few examples of that.
I was like, ooh la la, in front of everybody. I was like, ooh.
It's interesting also that they try to think of the way robots would have a sexual activity together, because it is not the way humans do. And I like it. I really like this approach. Anyway, that was just a note I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, no, we're talking about that all stemmed from the whole like talking about the stereotypical kind of representations in the game.
Yeah, let's go a bit deeper into that, because you're talking about stereotypes, and I want to go back to this: the woman that wants to have a kid, therefore flight with it, and then find a tall black guy to hang out with to protect her. If it was, first of all, Kara never said she wanted to be a mother, never showed this interest or anything. She was built to be a carer, which is really different.
Okay.
She never expressed that she wanted to be a mother. She took a child in while figuring out that this child had a life endangerment situation. Mm-hmm. Second, if it was a tall, white guy, you would have told me exactly the same thing as for Luther.
Oh yeah, no, I think like
it was
the issue stems from
a
like
guy in general, you would have told me the same thing.
Yeah, like the woman and child need to be rescued, you know. But like, come on,
that's
like
not at all how I felt Luther though.
You don't
also
see.
Luther died, so
well, yeah, in your storyline, absolute F. But like, there's not even like, and I was going to touch on this a little bit later as well. But like, there's not actually the greatest amount of diversity with the androids. I felt, generally speaking. Like,
okay,
there wasn't like like a lot, and then that's why Luther is just like he's absolutely stacked. Like so obviously different. Like even at the end, like you could tell his avatar out from all the rest. Like that's just like it's like, oh come on, you're better than this, guys.
One type. He's one type of the multiple androids.
But you don't see another one.
We don't see another Luther, but we don't see another type of. Okay, we see other types of carrot-ish. Mm-hmm. We don't see another type of Marcus, because Marcus is still a tall. He's black, right? I think the actor that played him is mixed.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I think that is
he played in Grey's Anatomy. For anyone out there that has the reference, he's Avery in Grey's Anatomy.
Bob was confirmed the actor was a mixed race person. I don't know if that's the correct terminology.
Yeah, apologies if it's not. It's a person that is half colored, half white, if we can say. Therefore, he can be considered a black person or a person of color. In any case, he definitely is. And he's super tall. And he is, I'm just trying to argue that Luther is not the only tall black guy in there. And he's strong and all that. So...
for me, I don't know. I'm not convinced. It still felt a bit on the nose. Jesse Williams is the name of the person.
Jesse Williams, thank you.
And again, it's my opinion, but it just felt like they're in this situation, and I was like, oh, the big strong robot helped them out, and then like that's like a repeated thing. And again, that's because of the choices I made in the storyline. I went down.
And you're not going to comment on the fact that he clearly took Allison and treated her like a daughter, even though he's a male, for example.
Well, that I was going to bring it up. There's another interesting point. I said I was starting with the negatives. The positives were going to be things like, he shows actually a really interesting parental attitude and stuff. Like,
I'm an optimistic person. I want the positive now. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So that was that one. I think. Like the healer in Jericho is like a woman of color who's black and like has like different parts and is all like mystical and like that's like a real trope. Like
she kind of has dreads. So about that, this is my assumption. So the game has been made by Quantic Studio, which is a French studio, and in the culture, in the pop culture in general, I think it has been retaken. The witches of Salem are represented usually as colored, black or else. Maybe it comes from there. At least that's the way I personally perceived it when I was playing the game. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I personally saw it. I was like, oh yeah, because the witches of Salem are black, therefore. But again, most probably the person that were burned on the stake in Salem were actually not black. So it's just a representation thing. And you can also have all the question around the different religions and beliefs in Africa that are known to be a bit more mystical than the ones that we have in Europe because of Christianity. So we don't have polytheism as a main religion historically.
And that it's obviously it's designed to create a talking point. I feel like not weird, but like I'm just uninformed. I'm not a person who I think can speak about like black issues. I'm not black. I'm not a person of color.
Me neither.
So like it's just like my observation, but like it just felt very tropey to me, and there was that part of my brain going like, they didn't have to do this in this way, And I think that's just where I was like, but by the same token, like as you say, like there's so much going on in there. I mean, if the developers want to sit down with us and shoot the fat, DM me, like we can make it happen.
The thing also that came up a lot when we were talking about that for me is that if it was a white android or if it was anything on the spectrum of colors that is not white, would it change anything? And from my perspective, it wouldn't have changed the way I perceive this android in particular. So that's also my take as someone who played the game. When I played the game, it didn't shock me to see a black person representing a mystical force.
No, and I think at the end of the day, you can maybe like try and find fault with everything. I think for me, like the context, I would kind of frame it in that like, was there a lot of diversity amongst the characters? Generally, an okay amount, but maybe like I can't be sure. I wouldn't like 100% say, oh, it wasn't entirely like, yeah, we're look at us, we've got a diverse cast, and like almost like forced pronouncement, which isn't the same as like equality. Like you don't see any disabled androids, and like I know that it isn't like why they would be.
You see disabled androids in Jericho.
Well, yeah, but like they're the rebels already. Like I mean, I know
of course
from like
they've been broken because they're the rebels.
Like the manufacturing point of view, you wouldn't they wouldn't design something that is designed for housework. There's also an android with a disability. Like obviously, like that is what the game's trying to say. But like, it's like if they'd have just then had like one android that was on wheels or in a wheelchair, then like that would be really random and sort of almost tokenistic.
Yes, exactly. that would be a big question of why, because the way that the game frames the androids is really initially that they're tools and they're perceived as tools, and you wouldn't want a tool that according to efficiency might be a bit less efficient to physical tasks, right? Again, I am trying to be the smoothest when saying that and don't want to offend anyone by saying
but I mean, like again, like
about tools here.
But one of the few disabled characters in the game can die immediately from a heart attack. It's like so obviously I can't speak about like issues of like color or race or religion particularly, but like disability is something I feel much more comfortable about being from the community. But like, the disabled guy, he's got an android, and then like, he can die really early.
I like that as well. No, but I like that there was a guy who was disabled, and that was not the story. That was not his story. His story was not that he was in a wheelchair. His story was that he was old which is a big difference.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You could argue it is ageism, but in my opinion, it fit quite well in there to say, okay, this guy was a bit more wise than a lot of people in the community.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, he was in a wheelchair, but also it just meant that he needed Marcus maybe a bit more.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like, the reason I bring it up is just because it's like, even like within the cast and characters, like just generally, even the humans, you could say like the level of diversity wasn't like massive. I do think, you know,
No.
generally speaking, particularly from like a racial sort of representation, it's pretty good. Well, that's what I mean. But like,
it is fairly good.
There were just a couple of tropes that like kind of had me pondering a little bit, and that's the whole point, like, that I was sort of making, really, and that's why I've been chewing the fat on it. Fair
enough. Okay, I still believe that it's one of the best games when it comes to diversity that I've played.
Oh yeah, and like, you know, we're being critical on these like fairly minor points, really, when, like, you know, there are a lot of games doing a lot worse, like not doing as well. You know, that I think is worth pointing out. Like, let's perhaps should have opened with that. I'll be honest, that's a fault part on my part. But yeah, I will say we've been talking for about an hour.
Ooh, have we?
So I recommend that we just take a quick comfort break. I do also need to leave, I'll be honest. So what will happen is we will mute ourselves on the Zoom call. I'll drop a little bit of music for yourselves on stream. I'll run an ad if you're not subbed. Please do stick around for that. Help support the stream, etc., etc. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, we'll be back really quickly.
I will just do that now.
Don't hesitate to use the chat also to exchange with us.
Yeah, we are keeping an eye on it. Please feel free to agree, disagree, you know, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, please be part of the arguments we're having.
We'll be back in just a mo. And now.